Okay, it's 9:30. Is gonna jump into the more in-depth demo here. Can just somebody let me know? I'm sharing my desktop, so you should be able to see the main FOResT service homepage now.
Looks good, Greg.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on, I think one of the last slides Mort had about the resources available to you. So from the main FOResT service homepage, there is a relatively new link last week, about filing your FOResT operations notification online. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to a new sort of landing or page about FOResT. And I'm just going to briefly kind of quickly go down through this, just some introductory text. There's a link that will take you directly to FOResT to file a notification. But further down the page, there's a series of links here that take you to different parts of the page on the background, the timeline. The plan is, by April 1st, everything will be done through FOResT, and the paper notifications will no longer be an option. Some links to where you could set up email accounts if you need to, the frequently asked questions, and then there's a series of brief videos I tried to put together. They're 2 to 4 or 5 minutes long on different parts of FOResT, completing different tasks there. And then there's a place where we're posting the recordings of these sessions here, and then as well as where you can get in touch with us to let us know if you're running into issues or have suggestions or anything. So that's just a brief, just a look at that, some of the information that's out there for you if you're struggling with some things with FOResT. So I'm going to close that tab there. And like what's been mentioned before, this is the landing page or the home page for the actual FOResT application. And the first step we're going to do is create an account. And that's down here, sort of in the lower right-hand part of the page is create an account. But when you click on that, it's going to take you to this typical account creation form, I'll call it. And I'll just scroll down here a little bit just so you can get an idea of what's ahead of us here, filling out information. Contact information, and then a physical address as well as a mailing address. So what we'll do is we'll just start plugging in information here to create an account. If there's a company name you want to put in there, you can do that. The phone number is required. And you'll notice, and I'll try to point it out as we go along here, that we've built in hopefully some helpful hints here as you're entering things. With the phone number, we're not looking for any dashes. We're just looking for numbers, including the area code. If you're a licensed FORester, you would put your license number in here, and I'll show you when we get to the point of creating a notification. If you put in a FORester license number, it will allow you to select that you're a licensed FORester on the notification itself. If you don't have a license number, it will not give you that option on the notification. And we've also, I'm not sure if it's really visible here, but we've tried to put in some different links to help people if there's questions about FORester licensing. There's a link here that would take you to that page. Continuing down here, that you would put in your email address. And for the demos, I've set up some dummy email accounts. you the different steps. So I'm going to put in the one I created for this demo today. And then you want to put in a password, and below this first box is a series of requirements that need to be present in the password. And these are all requirements that are part of the state of Maine security policy. And you see as I'm entering it in and I'm meeting certain requirements, they're falling off the list here. So by the end of it, and of course I've lost track of my typing, so I'm going to type it again. And then it asks you to type it again just to make sure it matches. And you want to make sure you remember that password, because that's the password you'll use, as well as the email address, to log into FOResT once your account is set up. And now we'll enter the physical address. And if you have a different mailing address, you could put it in here. But for this demo, I'm just going to say it's the same. The mailing address is the same as the physical address. I do want to, one thing that I've heard from since this has gone live, is that if you're missing some information here and you go to create an account, this is a fix we need to address. But when you click on it, nothing happens. And what we're going to do is put a note down here to check above, because it appears there's some missing information. So I purposely took out the street address so that I could show you that. So I'll put back in the street address and then go back down. And when I click the create an account, there'll be a note here that comes up saying that you're almost there. And you want to go to your email account to activate your FOResT user account. So I'm going to click OK here. And this takes you back to the main page of FOResT. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to my email account that I put in as part of the user account setup. And there is an email here saying confirm FOResT user account. And so click on this, and just some kind of basic information, just saying, hey, there's an account that's been set up with FOResT, and if you believe it's an error, contact us, or don't click on the link below. And I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but there's this your FOResT user ID number. And so you want to keep track of that, or make sure you save this email so you have that for reference. But I'll point out as we go along here where you can also find that FOResT user ID number. And then right after that is the link to activate the account. So you want to click on that, and that's going to take you to FOResT, and it's going to ask you to log in, and this is going to be the email account that you entered to set up your account. And then the password that you also put in there for when you were setting up your account. And then you click sign in. And you're now logged into FOResT. As Dan and Mort mentioned, this is the dashboard or landing section once you're logged into FOResT. I do want to point out, let me just see if I can get that a little bit bigger for you. In the upper right-hand corner, once you've signed in, it's going to tell you who you signed in as and your FOResT ID number. And this is persistent on all the pages of FOResT, so you can always refer to the top here if you need to find out what your user ID is. And then the dashboard itself, as was pointed out earlier, there's a couple of sections on the main section of the page. The first one is my pending notifications. Here would be the ones listed that either you're in the process of filling out and had to stop for some reason, as well as ones that you're waiting for other parties on the notification to certify their participation on. And there'll be a button over to the right here where you would be able to view, go in and either view what's on the notification or to continue where you left off on it. And then down below there is your active notifications, and these would be the ones that have been certified as complete, and they would have a notification number here. And you would be able to click on a view button here to go to the summary page and view the information there, as well as print out postings if you need them. So with that, are there any questions at this point?
Yeah, I have a question, Greg.
Yeah.
Supposing I'm a forester cutting my own property, or I'm a logger cutting my own property. System doesn't mind me putting in the same email address and or number for both forester and landowner designations.
So when you set up your account, you'll put in one email address, and if you're a licensed forester, you put in your license number, and then in the next step I'll show you here, when we start filling out a notification, you would be able to identify yourself as any four of those parties on a notification. The key would be, as mentioned before, is that to actually fill out the notification, you'd have to be either the landowner or designated agent. But I think in the examples you mentioned, if you're the landowner and the harvester, you can indicate those two on there and go through the process of completing the notification.
Okay, I guess, yep, I think that answers my question.
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, I'm going to go right into creating a notification.
I think Mr. Carr had a question.
Okay, I cannot see the chat, so if somebody else on the team can just kind of let me know.
Yeah, Bob had his hand raised there.
Yeah, go ahead. You might be muted if you're asking the question. I cannot hear you. All right, I'm going to continue on, and just I'll take a break as we go along each of the steps here. I'm going to pause for questions. So there'll be plenty of opportunities during the process as well as at the end to ask questions or make comments. So I'm going to create a notification. And just where we're at here is on the first step, the overview part of filling out a notification. And as was pointed out by Dan and Mort, there's these other steps to go through to complete a notification. So you have overview, mapping, activity details, contacts, and summary. And I don't know if you can tell for sure, but these you can't move ahead or jump ahead until the current step you're on is completed. Once, and I'll show it, but once you've moved on to another step, you are able to go back to previous ones that have been completed, but the system will not allow you to jump ahead until the current part is completed. And as was pointed out earlier, there is the opportunity to save a draft so that you can come back later to finish it. So the first part of the overview section is identifying your notification roles. And there's, for me, I'm not a licensed forester, like I mentioned, so I don't have the opportunity to identify as a licensed forester on this notification. But if you had put in your license number as part of your account or your profile, that would be active to click on. As well as there's these little information icons. If you hover over them or click on them, it will provide you with more information about either the question or what the different answer options are. So you have a better idea of what we're looking for. So for this example, I'm gonna say I'm a designated agent for this notification. And then the next part is the operation schedule. And you can just pick a date. I'm just gonna say we're gonna start tomorrow, and it automatically puts it in for 2 years. If the activity is less than 2 years, on the landowner report itself, you can indicate on there that the operation is completed, and it will close out the notification prior to this 2-year end date. The next section is property details. You'll select the town or township or plantation. And I'm going to pick Addison. And then the nearest road. And then the number of acres in the parcel. Let's put in 250. And then the question is, the last one there is about if the parcel was purchased within the past 5 years, yes or no. And I'm going to check off no here. And just to reiterate what's been mentioned prior, we really tried to keep this whole process of completing a notification out very similar to the paper form. We tried not to introduce any new questions so that it provided some familiarity to people. So I've completed all the questions presented on the overview section. So I'm going to click the next button over here to the right, and we'll go to the mapping section. Are there any questions before I jump into the mapping? All right. I'm actually just gonna. Yeah.
Merle, you have your hand up. You have a question?
No, that was the same question I asked a little while ago.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. So we're on the mapping page, and again, as was mentioned before, we put in the town of Addison. So the map itself is going to center on Addison, right in the middle of the map here. And again, this is very similar to other GIS applications or programs like Google Earth or Google Maps. You can, click and move around on the map. You can use the buttons to the right to zoom out further or zoom in. And then you can, I have a wheel on my mouse, so we can zoom in with that as well. And before I zoom in any further, I'm going to show there's on the right-hand side, there's a button here. It looks like 3 little trays. And if you click on that, it allows you the option of changing your base map. By default, we have it going to a topographic map, but you can change it to imagery if you want. And then you can also, if you scroll down, there's the town boundaries that are on by default. If we're in an LUPC township or plantation, it would list out or display the different sub-districts that they have there. And there are a few. Just scrolling down here. And then for any of the statewide standard towns, it will also display information about the different features around that. And you'll be able to see that just here in a quick second. And then the last part is the wildlife. Turn that on just so you can see. Right now, this information is based on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service data, and it just displays critical habitat of Canada lynx and salmon habitat. But by default, we have that off. Let me just scroll back up to the top here. To close this little list here, you just click on those 3 trays again. And then we'll zoom in a little bit further here just to get down to where we want to map some activities. And sorry, but I'm going to change this back to topographic just for a second so you can see when we get into statewide standard information that it will display it a little bit better. And it'll come on, once you get to a certain level of zooming in on a map, it will start displaying the statewide standard information for you. So once you've kind of got to a point where you're like, okay, I think I'm close to where I want to be to map my activities, you would use one of these 3 buttons down here that were mentioned before. We'll start out by drawing a harvest. So you want to click on the harvest button. And you'll notice that to the left-hand side here was instructions come up on how to draw a harvest area. And with your mouse, there's a kind of a floating dot. And to start drawing, you would just click once and drag, for the first, I'll call it the first leg of your harvest area. You would click once again to change direction. And you'll notice that it's calculating the acres as you're drawing to kind of give you an idea of the harvest size that you're planning. And again, it doesn't have to be, this isn't survey quality or survey level. It's just giving us an idea of where the activity is going to take place. And you just continue clicking wherever you want to change your directions to draw your area. And then to end the drawing, you would just double click. And that allows you to free your mouse so you can to move around free of drawing. One of the other features here is there's all these dots here, and if you find you want to change this a little bit, you can click on one of the dots and drag it and move it around. The other thing you can do is in between the dots on the line, you'll see there's a dot floating now, and if you click once on that, that puts another point there, so you can drag and move that if you want to fine tune it more. And you can do that however you want to fine tune it. And then down on the bottom part of the page is this table, and you'll notice there's a number 1 here in the center of the harvest, and that corresponds with the activity ID down here at the bottom for this harvest. And what you can do is either click cancel if you want to start completely over from drawing a new harvest, or you can click save. And we'll click save here, and that's going to kind of lock that harvest area in. The only option you have now is to delete it and start over with a new harvest. The next thing you can do is you can do a road construction. Click on the road construction button here. And again, to the left side is a brief instructions on how to draw a road. If you're familiar with any other GIS, it's very similar. You just start the line, you just click once and drag. And as you can see, as you're dragging it out to draw the first leg of a road, it's calculating the length of it in feet. And again, you just click once to change direction. And then just double click to end the drawing. And very similar to the harvest, you can click on any of these points to move them around, fine tune however you want to. And again, you can also add a point in the middle here if you need to change it in a different direction. Click once to put it, and then just move it to wherever you need to put it. There is a question related to road construction down here, and it's related to if it's going to be a temporary or permanent road. We'll click permanent. And very similar, you could click cancel to start over the road again, or you can click save. And we'll click save, and that's going to lock that road in. And you're only given the option to delete that road now and start over. The other feature you can, or activity you can map, is a water crossing. Click on the water crossing button here. Again, to the left, there's instructions on how to put a water crossing in. And it's just a matter of, it's a point, so you're just going to move to wherever you want the crossing to go, and just click once, and it drops it on the map. And you can, at this point, you can click on it and drag it to wherever you want to put that crossing. And then with the water crossing itself, there are two questions. The first one, similar to the road instruction one, is it a temporary or permanent crossing? And then the second one is okay, what kind of structure type is it? Is for a road crossing or a skid trail crossing? And we'll select road crossing. And again, you can cancel it to remove it, or start over, or hit save to lock it in, and we'll click save here. So now we have three different features here, three different activities as corresponding down here on the table for the activity IDs. The last one, number 3, was a water crossing. That's the information for that. I do want to show that you can. We'll just click and move a little over here. You can, for all three of these activities, you can have multiple ones as long as it is in the same town. So I'm just going to quickly do a new harvest, save it. So you can see that you can have multiple activities mapped on the same map here. And then I'll just delete the last one here just so you can see how that works. And it just prompts you to make sure, are you really wanting to delete this activity? Click yes, and it removes it from the map. Are there any questions around the mapping?
One suggestion.
Sure.
Mapping property boundaries can be tricky from an aerial or even another map. A lot of towns now have tax maps available online for each town. Don't know, I know it'd probably be a lot of work and may not be worth it, but that would be an option that would help in mapping out where these harvests are.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I know it's been brought up before. The concern is on how accurate they are and the availability across the state. And Greg Miller might have a better ideas on that.
Yeah, and they're also hard to keep up to date because of the fact that if the town would have to send the GIS data to the state every time it made changes. And it seems like what the information that the state has, it's sort of a one and done. So once they get the information, they don't usually get updates from any of the towns.
Yeah, plus the towns are pretty slack in updating their own tax map, so.
Correct. And we're not asking for that level of detail. I mean, we don't expect you to be following boundary lines or anything. We just expect you to go ahead and, if this is where the harvest is, give us an idea where the harvest is so that we can find it when we go out in the field.
Sure, and I get that, but if you're doing the entire parcel, just makes it a little easier to map, that's all.
Yes. Oh, and sometimes you can see things on the ortho photo that sort of designate where the outline of the property probably is.
Yep. Okay,
And it
that's all I got.
All right. And it looks like Bob Carr, you have your hand up. Do you have a question? Okay, I guess not. Oh, go ahead. All right. If you're, we can't hear you, Bob, if you're asking a question. So if not, then Greg, you can go ahead and move on then.
Okay. Yeah, so the next step is the activity details. Next step on this path here to completing a notification. And so we'll click next. And again, we're presenting you with questions that are just like what are on the paper form now. The first question has to do with the harvest size. And if you try to put in a harvest size larger than what you entered for a parcel size, it's going to give you this note here that you put in 250 acres for your parcel. So it has to be less than that. The two options are to go back to overview section and change it from 250 to a different number, or to change your harvest size down. So we'll just go with 200. Then the question is about if the land's in tree growth. Check off yes for that. The next question has to do with if you're changing the use of it in the next 2 years. And this is just a slight difference. We're going to present you, if you say yes, it's going to be a change of use. It's going to present with two different questions here. The first one is a drop down for the different, I'll say, broad categories. The change of land use would kind of fall under. We aren't looking for details here if you're converting to a vegetable garden or a wheat field or whatever. It's just these broad categories. And so you just pick one of them and then put in the number of acres you're going to change to that use. And then there's also these two questions about clear cutting. If you put in less than 20 acres here, and I can show you that, those questions will not be presented to you. And then it gets you into checking changing the land use to make sure that that's less than the acres of the harvest also. So there's a lot of built-in checks here, but after all that, the two questions related to clear cuts over 20 acres and over 75 acres went away. So it's, we're trying to make it a little bit dynamic, so it's presenting you with the questions that you need to answer as you're going through it, not just like on the paper form, we have to give you every question that could be possibly asked. So we're hoping this is an improvement, that you're only presented with the answers, the questions you have to answer. So we'll say this is going to be 20-acre clear cut, but not 75. Then the question about if you're cutting within 250 feet of water, we'll check off yes there. If you were going to put in, add wood to the stream, there's a question about that. And again, there's a link here to Maine Forest Service Chapter 25 rules. I'll click on that, and that's going to take you to the document related to that. So if you want to do further investigation on what that's all about, you can do that. But I'll return to FOResT. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to be adding any wood to the stream. And then the last question here has to do with Addison being a statewide standard town. So it's asking you what option you're going to be doing for retention. So I'm going to go with 60 square feet of basal area retention. And this is a bug that's still in works that need to be fixed, but there's these two questions on the road construction that should only be presented in LUPC townships. So to get through them, I'm just going to put in 1 square foot that's going to be altered, and that we're going to be harvesting in a FEMA flood plain. But again, those will go away here shortly. And there would be just a generic statement similar to the road crossing saying that you've mapped road construction. And then just to review the requirements on the summary page. And that is the last part on the activity details section. Before I move on to contacts, are there any questions? All right, I'm gonna keep moving here. The next, clicking next here will take us to the contacts. And so in this notification, I identified as the designated agent. So I need to provide the landowner's information. So I've set up, some other accounts for this demo. And I do already have their FOResT ID. I can put that in here. And then, so once the thing to make sure is that the last name is spelled correctly, as it would be on the user's account in FOResT, as well as their FOResT ID number. And then you would click Find Landowner.
So for the name, does it matter whether it's uppercase or lowercase? Do you have to match?
I have not tested that for sure.
Okay, I'll put it on the list.
Well, we do it right here shortly. So it's not case sensitive. The key is they both have to match. If one was, if you put in Smith as the last name and then put in this same ID, it would come back and say something's wrong, double check your information and try again. If you see that this is not the right person that you thought you had, you can remove them. But this is the correct landowner. So we'll move down. There's these 2 additional questions. These in the past have been on the landowner report, but we've added them here to identify the number of acres that the landowner owns in the state. And then their ownership type. And again, these have those little information icons here that when you hover over them, will give you a little bit more information on what we mean by each of these land ownership types. And then scroll down, designated agent information. I'm the one filling this out, so it's showing my information here. And then you want to put in a harvest operator also. And again, this is a different person. even though they have the same last name. So again, you click the Find Harvester or Operator. And if you had entered it incorrectly, you would come back with a message saying that, and to try again. But in this situation, the right harvester operator is displayed here. And then optional is if you wanted to add a licensed forester at this point, you could do that by putting their last name and FOResT ID number in here, not their license number, but their FOResT ID number. But for this demo, we're going to just, we've added a landowner and a harvest operator. And before I move to the summary page, is there any questions on contacts? All right, we'll click next here to go to the summary page. Actually, I'm going to just change it up just a little bit. I mentioned that you could go back to previous sections. You can't go to summary yet, but you can go back to these other parts. So you could click on one of these and you could go to overview, go in here and change whatever you wanted to at this point. And now, since we've completed the mapping, activity details, and contacts, you can jump kind of in between these. So we're back on the contacts page. Can't go to the summary yet, but if we click next, it will take us to the summary page. So this is just, as it says, it's a summary of all these 4 previous steps you've taken, all the information you've entered so that you can review them. The status of it is still in draft. So you could click save draft here, leave and come back in the future and finish completing the notification. So the first section on the summary page is the FOResT operations contacts. And again, this is just for review. Make sure what you've entered is correct. So it lists out the landowner, designated agent, harvester operator, and then we didn't indicate a licensed forester, which is noted here, but if there was one, it would list their information similar to this here. And as more pointed out, there's a checkbox at the bottom of each of these sections. So once you've reviewed a section, you would check this box saying, I certify that this information is correct. And it's going to kind of close that up. And I apologize for the kind of jumping a little bit here. But it closes up that first section, that FOResT operations contacts. It closes it up. You can uncheck this to view it again if you want to. But we'll move down to the overview section, the first step in our journey here, just to review what was entered. If you had issues with any of these questions, the answers that you put in, you could go back to that section and correct it or make the appropriate changes. But for now, we're just going to click this box saying I certify that this information is correct. Then you're into the mapping section here. And this has all the features of as was presented on the mapping section, except you cannot add new activities. You can still zoom in or zoom out. You can go in here and you can change to imagery if you want to. You can click and move around, get a feel for is that what the intent is of this notification is to do these activities. And then if you scroll down just a little bit, it's going to list out those mapped activities with some detail on the size of the harvest, the length of the road, and the sort of the structure of the crossing. So I'll scroll down here, and if that is all correct, just click the box to certify that it is. And the next part is the activity details. Third step here on the journey above. And again, you're just reviewing what you've already entered for the different questions. And there are links here for section 7 of the chapter 21. If you wanted more information, you could click on that and it'll take you to that part on our website. And again, it does display that road construction activity, those 2 questions, which, like I pointed out, they are not going to be displayed on organized towns. That's a bug we have to correct here. So in its place would be a similar statement to what is presented under the water crossing activities, just saying that you know, there will be a road construction as part of this operation, and to review the important reminders down below. So if everything here is correct, we would check certify that this information is correct. The next part is a little bit just presenting you with contact information for our staff, either the district forester or the Forest Protection Regional Office. If you have further questions you want to ask us, that's the local support for you. And again, you just certify that that is correct. And then the last section here is important reminders. And this is where, you know, we just want to remind everyone, you know, to make sure to check your town or municipality for any local ordinances that might be applying to your activity. Just be familiar to all the rules before you start, and just to plan ahead. And the other part here is if under each of the activities that you mapped out would display important reminders here. There are none for the harvest or the road construction, but there is one for the water crossing. And just that a permit must be submitted within 60 days prior to must be submitted 60 days prior to the construction of any new permanent crossings. And again, this is just information that you would have to take further steps. There is no process built in here for allow you to kind of fill in a permit by rule or other permit requirements we have at this point. And then there's some general reminders related to forest quarantines. This one displays European larch canker and gypsy moth, and these are both links, and we'll take you to sections on our website where you can get further information on those quarantines. And go back to FOResT, and then there's also information about important Atlantic salmon habitat. As Mort pointed out in his part of the presentation, the certify button here is grayed out. That's because I haven't checked all the boxes off here saying I've certified all the information is correct. So once I click on the button here, that certify button becomes active. And at this point, you can still go back and change anything you want to on the notification. Once you click certify, it's going to present you with a little pop-up here message to certify, acknowledge, and certify that in this situation, I'm the designated agent, and I've answered the questions to the best of my knowledge and belief. The second one has to do with being a designated agent, and that the landowner must sign and certify that I am their designated agent. And then the last statement here has to do with there are other parties that are going to participate in this notification and need to approve their participation before a number can be assigned to this. And again, the acknowledge and certify button here is not active until I check off all 3 boxes here. And up until this point, I could hit cancel here. I could go back in and change any part of the notification that I want to. But once I hit acknowledge and certify, it's going to automatically send out emails to both the landowner and the harvest operator for them to acknowledge their participation in the notification. And at that sort of stage in this process, the only option you would have is to withdraw the notification. And that just means that those two parties, the landowner and the harvester, would not be able to certify their participation, but it would allow you to go back and edit the notification or the information you've submitted around that notification. And I'll just show you that in a second here. So we'll click acknowledge and certify. And this notice just comes up saying you've certified the notification successfully, and that there are other contacts that need to acknowledge their participation, and that the FON is no longer editable unless you withdraw it. So for now, we'll just click OK. And you're on the FON summary page. You'll notice that because we're sort of in a pending certification status here, that the sort of that path that we had displayed along the top has gone. You're now, just sitting here waiting for the other parties to certify their participation. And you do have the option here of withdrawing the notification if you want to. And again, that would not allow the other parties to acknowledge their participation, but would allow you to go back through and change information on the notification. And again, this is just that summary page. I'll just briefly scroll down. It's all the information that you reviewed and marked off, checked off all the boxes here. So at this point, as a designated agent, you're just waiting for the other parties to acknowledge their participation in this notification. Are there any questions?
You might want to go ahead and show on the map page what you have available still with your drop downs and your different layers.
Okay, sure. Yep. Yeah, so down here on this page, you have the map. And again, you have all the features available to you, except you just cannot add new activities. So you can zoom out, zoom in, move around, as well as change to aerial view if you want to get an idea of what's going on here. And then again, it does list out those activities down below.
And then on the bottom of the list, I don't know if you showed before, but you do actually have the some of the habitat for salmon and the wildlife. Yeah.
Yeah, I did show that, but I can show it again here. By default it's off, but if you wanted to see it, you could turn it on here. And then zoom out if you need to. At this point, this map is not printable. We're working on trying to get the ability to print that out. And it probably more has to do with once the notification has been approved and is active, and then you want to share that with other people. If there are no other questions, what I'll do now is I'm going to sign out of FOResT, and I'll show you sort of the experience as a landowner and what they would go through to verify their participation or accept their participation in a notification. Hello?
You can talk. No, you can talk. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark DeShane again.
Yeah.
More of a comment than a question. I think you guys did a really nice job on this. It seems very well thought out, and it's going to eliminate some notifications being kicked back because they weren't completely filled in and all that type of thing, which is really
Yep.
good.
Yep.
The only comment that I have, and I think it's fairly serious, this having to have the landowners approve this notification is something new that was not done on the paper copy. And I think you should seriously consider doing away with that. If you have a designated agent that's representing the landowner and he signs off on all this stuff and fills it all in, I don't think, I think it's a really big burden to ask some landowners who get their woodlot cut once in their lifetime and don't even know what a FONS is, to have to go and approve this. That's my comment.
Yeah, I'll just jump in, Mark. I appreciate that comment. I think that the circumstances in which a landowner doesn't have to sign a notification are actually really quite, they're extremely limited in rule. And so, you know, most of the time a landowner has to sign a notification. And that's been the case for a long time. There are some very, very narrow exemptions, but there's no, you know, there's no opportunity for, you know, any designated agent to, you know, to not have the landowner sign a notification. I recognize as Dave's comment, you know, earlier about that's a challenge for some landowners as far as having electronic access and so forth. But the actual requirement to have a landowner sign off on a notification is, you know, is pretty long standing. So.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the years I've been working, I've always signed notifications, and I guess I worked for large landowners that didn't sign, and I work for BPL now, and nobody else signs but me. And that's where I'm coming from there, but I guess I'm wrong with that.
Yeah.
I am wrong with that. But
well, like
it is a pretty big ask to have some landowners that don't know anything about this, you know, have an email and they don't even know what it is, and to have set up an account and as stuff that was brought up earlier. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we talked about earlier, it's a different scenario when there's a, you know, a large entity that, you know, has multiple people employed by them. You know, certainly there are ways to address that, but, you know, individual landowners do need to sign and be aware that, you know, that requirement is there.
Sure. Yep.
Any other questions?
No, I didn't mute it, I don't think.
All right, I think that was a no, so I'm gonna continue on here, and what I'll do is I'm gonna sign out as Greg Lord, the designated agent, and I'll show you the experience that a landowner would have. I'm gonna sign out of FOResT now. I'm gonna close that completely. And so, sorry for the jumping around here, but I'm now in the landowner's email account. And in the inbox is this pending certification for a notification for a landowner in Addison. We'll just open that up. And it just says that, you know, notification's been created by Greg Lord through the FOResT tool. It's now pending certification until all the participants have acknowledged their involvement. And it just indicates here that me as the landowner now, I am the landowner on this notification. and that I need to certify that the information on there is correct. We present a little bit more information around the notification, the town, the start and end date, just to give you an idea of, okay, is this something that it sounds like something I'm expected to see here. And then we give you some information on, okay, you need to sign in, and you have two options: either certify that the notification is correct, to approve it, if I as a landlord approve it, or you can decline and return the notification for corrections or withdrawal if you don't approve this notification. And once all the parties have certified, then it becomes active and a notification number is issued here. So at the very end is this link here that says approve or decline your involvement with this notification or with this FON. So you'll click on it. And what it's going to do is it's going to take you to FOResT and present you immediately with a login. So you want to log in, and this time I am the landowner. And I'm just going to keep it simple here since it already remembers my email address as a landowner. And then I will put in my FOResT password. And what it's going to do, since I clicked on the link on that email, and once I sign in, it's going to bypass the dashboard and everything, and it's going to take me directly to the summary page for my review of this specific notification. So again, this is going to look very similar to what the designated agent saw. The only difference here is he had the option, or she had the option, to withdraw the FON. As landowner, I only had the option to decline my participation in it. Its status is still pending. I can see that Greg Lord certified his involvement at this date and time. And again, this is the exact same information that the designated agent reviewed. There's no difference. We're not presenting any different information to the different parties on the notification summary page. Everyone sees the exact same things. So if it looks good, I would certify that it's correct. Check the box there. Review the overview information. If that's correct, check it there. Again, harping on it a little bit, but the map again has all those features. You can change it to imagery if you want to, and move around, zoom out, zoom in, just to verify. Yeah, this is as landowner, this is my idea of what should be occurring. So this is certify it again as correct. Check the box. The activity details, just reviewing what was put on the notification for answers for each of the questions. And again, these are all active links here, just like what was presented to the designated agent. Again, road construction, this is going to be gone here shortly. And you would just certify the information is correct. The next part is the Forest Service contacts if you want to reach out to us. Then the important reminders. Again, exact information, reminders, and notices that were presented to the designated agent. Again, they're all links, so you can go look at these if you want to. And then once you've checked all the boxes here, you would certify your participation or involvement in this notification. And I'm just going to scroll to the top, because the other option would be to, if at any point during this there were some concerns or questions, there's two options. You could either decline your involvement or to get on the phone and talk to the designated agent in this example, and just for clarification. If you're good with everything, you would click certify, And again, you're presented with the slightly different statements, but there's 3 of them here to acknowledge that you're the landowner, and the questions are answered to the best of your knowledge and belief. You're the landowner and you've named a designated agent, and that you'll understand that the FON will not be submitted to the Forest Service until all parties have acknowledged their participation. And so we would click acknowledge and certify, or if you want to, you can still click cancel here and withdraw if you want, but we'll click acknowledge and certify. And it just says, okay, you know, you've successfully certified the notification, and there are other contacts that must certify before it becomes active notification. And again, so you're scroll back up, we're on that exact same summary page. The only difference is that now the landowner has certified their involvement with this one. So the next one would be is acknowledging participation by the harvester operator. So I am going to sign out as landowner. I don't know if I pointed this out earlier, but top right here is the landowner's name and their FOResT ID number. So I'm going to sign out now. I'll close FOResT. Close quarantines. And so now in this example, or this part of it is showing you what the harvester or operator would receive for an email, and it looks very similar to the landowners. We get an email saying that this notification was created by Greg Lord. And the only difference here is you've been identified as the harvester operator. Just clarify, I've logged in. I've gone from designated agent to landowner to now harvester, just for these demos. So now as a harvester, I receive an email saying, hey, you know, there's this notification. You've been identified as the harvester operator on it, and need to certify your involvement or not. Again, some general information about the notification, and then further instructions on if you approve of it or do not approve of it, what you need to do. Again, there's a link at the very bottom to approve or decline your involvement with the notification. So we'll click on that. Again, this takes you to the login page on FOResT. And I now would log in as the harvester operator. And again, this is going to take me directly to the summary page of this specific notification that we're trying to certify. And again, this same thing that the landowner saw, you have the option of declining your involvement in it. It's still pending certification. And then you can see the other parties that have already certified their involvement. And again, it's kind of repetitive, but just you're reviewing everything that's already been entered on this notification and certifying that this information is correct. And the goal here is just to make sure everyone that's involved is familiar with the information around the activity proposed on the notification. And again, the map still can, as harvester, I can go in here and look at it different ways. All the same features. Listing out what the activities would be, and then certify the information is correct. And then activity details. How would the questions answered on the notification form. And the links are active. If you have want more information, click certify. Contact information for Forest Service staff. And then again, exact same information presented to the designated agent and the landowner or important reminders. And then click certify. So I'm just going to pause here for a second. In this example, we know that as the operator, I'm the last person to certify. And right now, as the designated agent still has the option to withdraw the notification and tweak it if they need to. And then it would just repeat this process again of sending out emails to the landowner and to the harvester operator. Once I click certify and answer I think it's 2 questions on the next page. Once that happens, the notification, if everybody's good with it and have approved their participation, it'll become an active notification and be assigned a notification number. As a harvester, you're just certifying or acknowledging that all the questions have been answered to the best of your knowledge and belief. And there may be other people that still need to certify their involvement in the notification. So you're just acknowledging that this may not be active yet. But for our demo here, we know that this is the last person. So once we click acknowledge and certify here, you'll see that there's it will present you saying you've successfully certified this notification. The fawn is submitted to the Forest Service and is now active. Just click OK. And I'm just going to scroll up to the top here. We're still on the summary page for this notification that we've been working on. It now has a number, and the status is active. You have the option of printing the posting. And this is going to look very similar to postings we've presented in the past to people. So this is the summary for this notification. The new feature down here, changed from what we've been looking at, is now, since it's active, we're going to give you some information about landowner reports and the expectation of them. So this is a 2021 notification, so the report's not due yet, but it gives an idea of what to expect in the future. And give some information on what we mean by landowner report and how we use that information. And if you scroll down, then you get to what looks familiar in the summary page. And this is, this is the information around who's certified and when, as well as all the other parts of the notification, the contacts, the overview, the map. Again, don't want to harp on it, but it still has all the features. You can look at it different ways. And then the activity details, contact information for us, and important reminders. And then sorry for the scrolling there fast. So that's the information for an active notification. I do want to touch on 2 things briefly. The first one is along the top, you'll notice is this dashboard where we started out. I'm going to go back there now. I'm now logged in as the operator, as an operator, or that's just my label for this. I'm just logged into FOResT, I guess is the best way to describe it, with this ID number. So my dashboard has a couple of different ones, and the demo, I've used it on multiple ones, so I have some active notifications here listed out, and we can go to any of them here. There's the link on the right here to view it. And they're all going to look very similar. So you're going to have a notification number. You can print the posting, and then all the same information down below for the summary on the dashboard. And then there's also one that's still pending here. And then the other part is your profile. This is where you can go in and actually change information about yourself on your account. The only thing you can't change is your email address tied to this. But you could change your mailing address or contact information on here at any point. And then the last part on the top here is just information on contacting us if you have questions, concerns, get stuck, or are frustrated. So that completes the process of doing a notification. Like I mentioned, I think it was to Merle earlier, the plan is to do some demos similar to this on the landowner part of this later in the year. But are there other questions?
There's a question in the chat box about being able to print out the full summary of a notification.
Yeah, so that ability isn't there yet. It'll just print out the posting. It is on the list of things that we want to have be able to do. At least the summary page, if not have the ability also just to specifically print out the map. It's not there yet, but it will be there soon. If there aren't any other questions, let me just, if I can get back to the meeting now.
Well, there's also a question in the chat about in the future trying to go ahead and have a printable form for the landowner to sign that you can scan and attach to bring back in.
Yeah, that would be a different process. I guess we'd have, it's, getting back to that discussion about having others setting up accounts for landowners. So
Yeah, there's more involved with that because we wouldn't want to accept just a piece of paper with the landowner's signature. It would have to be a full notification that the landowner is signing. But I don't know that we want to go that route because it would then we would have to receive that first before the notification could be finalized, and that would make us finalizing the notification, and that's what we're trying to get away from. That would probably take a whole lot more thought to see if we could work out a process to make this happen or not.
Yep. If there aren't any other questions, I don't know if Dan or Mort have any other final thoughts, but I hope this was helpful for everyone. And I thank you for attending. It's, I think it was Mort that mentioned, this is a change for us, for everyone, not just the Forest Service or just the public. It's everyone. It's a new way of doing things. So there's going to be some difficulties that we're going to work through and get through them together. So appreciate your patience. And again, we're always open to suggestions and criticism. So the goal is to make this a better product so everyone can use it and be successful.
Thanks very much, Greg. You've been the instrument, the lead on all of these, on this whole effort. So I just want to acknowledge and highlight how much work you've done on this to bring it to this stage. So thank you.
Thank you, Mort. Yeah, with that, thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good day, and we'll do another one of these. I think it's January 20th. Pretty much we're going to do every other Wednesday until the end of March doing these. So again, these are going to be recorded and put on that website for future reference. And again, thank you all. Have a good day.